Okay, so are you raising animals, let's say rabbits, some poultry, something like that, and we're thinking, hey man, we gotta water these animals. That's the most important thing. They can't live without water. What's the best way to do that? That's what we're talking about today. Hello everyone, I'm Chris and welcome back to the channel. Now if you're new to this channel, we give you the guidance it takes to grow your own food, raise your own meat, do all that in your backyard, and then we take you into the kitchen, give you some recipes, demonstrate them, show you how to make some really good food. Okay, so we're gonna start with the quail or chickens or whatever poultry you have, okay, the birds. When they're just baby birds, they're day olds, something like that, you're gonna have this probably for the first couple weeks of their life. Something to just stick their beak in, that's enough. You can fill this up daily or more than that if you need to. It's easy to rinse out. This is great for getting started. But as they get bigger, this isn't gonna work. Plus you're gonna go through this a couple times a day, especially in the summer. So now this is great to have as a backup. So when you get in the winter and everything starts to freeze, this can be easily cleaned out, put some warm water in it, bring it out, and that'll get you through the day when you have some really cold temperatures, okay? Once they get a little bit bigger, you can move to something like this, some sort of bowl or bucket, but you'll find they either jump in it, or they poop in it, or they just tip it over. They'll just make a mess. So this, again, it can get you through a day or so, but it's going to be laborious, right? You're going to have to be constantly changing it out, cleaning it out. It's not great, okay? Eventually, you want to try to see if you can get to these little guys. These are cheap, and you got to buy the PVC connectors, the screws into. But once you have it all set up, this pops open, right? So you can go clean these out and then put them back. Now the problem is, see this little spring? When they hit that with their beak, it lets out a little bit of water. That's great during the summertime because you can just keep giving them more and more water, right? But the problem is that little component, there's a little rubber in there, an O-ring and a little spring. In the winter, if you get freezing temperatures, this freezes up really fast and there's very little you can do to stop that. So this is great, but in the winter when everything starts to freeze, you have to really, really pay attention to these. And another thing too, they'll get stuck to where that O-ring will kind of leak. So they'll be kind of full and dripping and overflowing from time to time. And it is what it is. It's just, there's nothing you can really do about it other than you kind of go work it a little bit. And then sometimes that's enough to reset it or reseat it to where it'll stop leaking. But sometimes they'll just constantly leak, so you got to change it out. So however many you need, get twice that many because you'll probably have to change them out from time to time. For the bunnies, okay, when they're babies, remember they're nursing on mama. They're not really messing with the water. They're getting all their liquids and everything from mama. But as they get bigger, and obviously the adult rabbits, they're gonna need water. So these are great. You'll see these at pet stores. This is what people usually start off with, especially if you have like one rabbit, okay, or very few. This is great because they can hit this and they'll get all the water they need. Problem is, especially in Texas when it gets pretty hot, you're gonna be plowing through this like in hours, not days, okay? So you're gonna have to fill this up at least once a day, if not more. And again, in the winter, same thing. These will freeze up. This little metal part will kind of get, with the spring and everything in there, it'll freeze up and you won't be getting water. Now the good thing, again, to have these as backup is that when your whole system freezes, you can still change these out pretty quickly. And it gets you through a day, one day at a time, or through one evening at a time when freezing temperatures get pretty bad. But at some point, once you graduate from those, you want to get to these little guys. These, again, you buy a bunch of these. You don't buy as many as you need, you buy twice as many because they're super cheap. You can get a whole bunch of them for like 20 bucks, right? But they'll bite the little metal piece right here, and it'll get out as much as they need, and you hook that up to hose, and we'll go over that now. Okay, so for the bunnies, as you can see, you set up a watering system. You come over here and you want to check this every once in a while. You kind of push it and see how it leaks out. Can you see that? Yeah, see how it leaks out? It's just enough. And you set that all up to a watering system, and there's two ways you can do this. You can set it up with a regulator, which will take from your hose bib in your house, and it'll step that pressure down so that you're not blowing this out. Or you could just put it with gravity-fed, head pressure system, and we'll go over that. See this one's leaking? You see evidence. It's just drip by drip. It's not a lot, but it's just enough that it is leaking, and that does happen. You can either change it out if you're that worried about it, or let it drip a little bit, and it's just gonna make a little bit of mess, but it's just water. This is how most people start out, right? 5-gallon bucket, you got some hose, it goes down there, and now you have a way for them to get the water they need. The problem with this is, first of all, don't ever use clear hose. And this orange bucket, even though you feel like light can't get in, enough light can get in that very quickly, over the course of days, maybe weeks, that'll start to you'll have little algae kind of growing in your clear tubing. So you have to constantly clean that out. I mean, I don't want to feed chlorine or anything like that to my rabbits, so I have to constantly take it out, scrub it out, clean it out. This is not a good system for long term, but it'll get you through grow out period for a litter if you need. If you're gravity fed, okay? I got a 55-gallon drum. I built kind of a derrick for it to be up top. That way I have nice, good pressure. And then I hook up a water hose to the bottom there, and it kind of goes up and it fills everything up. And if you look over here, I have an overflow spout. So as soon as that starts spraying water out, I know that it's full and I can turn it off. And then I have a shut-off valve, and this goes and steps down to a smaller PVC once you get inside the barn. And that goes out to my chickens, out to my quail, out to my rabbits. It feeds everything. This is on a separate enclosure I have. I just built out an extra enclosure for additional cages. I've got two 50-gallon drums feeding this one. And again, I have it going two different directions for a quail enclosure on one side, a rabbit enclosure for the other side. And you can see how it kind of comes in here and it splits off and it feeds both sides. That's 12 cages worth of rabbits here. Something you can do, you don't have to, you can put a clear tubing right here and it'll give you your indication of what level you're at. The only thing with that again is if light can get in, that's where algae will grow. So I just take this little foam insulator for pipes, I put it over it. That way it's it's covered so light can't get in, and I put a cap over it just to make sure bugs don't get in either. Something else I like to do, I have every once in a while I have this kind of spin off for a hose and a little valve there. That'll give you quite a bit of pressure, and you could fill it up for whatever else you might need. I have an herb garden here made of some old pallets. I have an herb garden I've started here above one of my rabbit runs, and so I filled that up with it. Any kind of other water you would need, it works great. So you don't have to have it, but it's great to have as an option. Also, these shutoff valves, I recommend putting these everywhere you can think of, because at some point inevitably, whether it be from freezing pipes in the winter or from changing out some of these nozzles, whatever it is, you're gonna have to shut some of this down, and you don't want to shut the whole system down with all your animals to do one little piece over here. So the shutoff valves, I recommend putting them as often as you can. Now you can see how this ends up in the quail cages. Again, all through the PVC. See that little T connection? That's threaded on one side and that's where it screws into. And it just kind of slips over the 1/2 inch. And these guys, they know what to do. Isn't that right, guys? Gals? Okay, so some of my best lessons learned. One, for PVC pipe, when you're tying it all together, you don't need to glue it. You could just slip it over, because remember, it's not, unless you're using a regulator and you're coming off of your house pressure, it's a low enough pressure from just gravity fed that it's not gonna blow through your connections, okay? So you don't have to glue them. And the benefit of not gluing them is if in the winter they freeze, instead of pipe busting, it'll just blow apart, and then you can just snap it back together. So that would be a good lesson learned. Secondly, the black tubing, use that. The clear tubing, again, like I said, with light getting in, you're gonna have to constantly be cleaning that out or replacing it. And the black tubing, that you just don't have that situation. And so as well, for the actual drums that you're keeping all of your water in as a reservoir, if you use a plastic one, you're gonna invite the same issues there, where if it's metal, make sure it's food grade, by the way, but if it's metal, then there's no problem with it, the water can't get through. So you can make that connection pretty easy. Okay, but the number one lesson I would convey to you is this. Whatever you think you're going to need, buy more than that. You know, the parts are quite honestly, they're cheap enough that you just want to have extra on hand. And I've tried to reuse pieces and all that. It's just not worth it. They're going to leak at times. They're not high quality, you know, components. They're plastic. You got little bitty pieces in them. So whether it be the animals climbing on top of them or the water freezing and kind of like, you know, adjusting the seating on the O-ring, whatever it is, different things are going to cause it to constantly leak or malfunction. Just replace it. They're cheap enough that you can do that. You're talking like $1 or $2 per one of those cups or the little nozzles. Just get more than you need, because the last thing you want is for a situation where you need to replace that, but now it's on back order or it's going to take some time to get that in. Then you all of a sudden now you're waiting on stuff, and then you're going back to your backups, right? The other thing is the backups. All the stuff you're starting out with, keep those things, because like I said, if you're in a pinch in the winter and it's freezing, I can't speak to the northern states, but for Texas, we're not used to that. So when it happens, we're all reacting, right? Having those backup, simple watering systems is a great way to kind of get you through until you get warmer temperatures back. Okay, hopefully all this helped. If you have any questions, leave comments below. Really appreciate you subscribing. Sorry it's been so long since my last video. I've been expanding the farm, so I haven't had time to do these videos, but love doing them, love the support. If you have any questions, let me know and I'd be happy. If nothing else, God bless.